Welcome to the Vegan Transformation. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Angela Crawford. I'm a licensed psychologist and a vegan educator and author of the book, The Vegan Transformation, A Journey to Heal Yourself and the World. And on this YouTube channel, we'd love to inspire you on your vegan plant-powered journey to discover ways to thrive and live in, mind, body, spirit wellness, and living in a way that not only nourishes our own well-being, but also cares for animals and the planet. So I'm really thrilled to have my guest today, Victoria Moran. I'll bring her on in just a moment, but she's been a mentor, a friend, and a colleague of mine for several years now. When I first became vegan, I went to Main Street Vegan Academy, and that's where I met her. And it's just been a transformational journey for me since then that, I think ultimately led to me finding a greater sense of purpose and how I wanted to share this vegan message in the world to empower others. So Victoria is the author of 14 books, and she has been on Oprah twice. She created Main Street Vegan Academy back in 2012, which certifies and trains vegan lifestyle coaches and educators. And, she's just done many, many amazing things. She has won the Vegan Hall of Fame in 2024. And she's also just an inspiring and uplifting person. So I just want to invite her onto stage now to join me. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi, Angela.
So good to see you.
You too. It's always lovely to see you and to connect with your wonderful readers and followers who are fans of yours, as I am.
Well, thank you. And I didn't mention in my intro that Victoria also wrote the foreword for my book, which many people have mentioned how beautiful and inspiring it is. So
thank you. Thank them.
So obviously you have been vegan for many, many years, but I want to invite you to say a little bit about your vegan journey. So just feel free, even though it's been a long time, to just share what parts of it you want to share. But a lot of times people like to know, how did we get on this path? How did we come to where we're at? So I'd love to hear you share a little bit about yours.
Oh, I'll try to compact it because it really started early. The inspiration. My parents both worked, and I had a very interesting nanny. She was grandmother aged and had lots of ideas that were considered avant-garde at the time. And she did tell me that there were vegetarians in the world when I was 5 years old. And I remember thinking, oh, there's so much to learn, and probably I won't learn most of it in school. And when I was 13, I tried to be vegetarian because I loved animals. It lasted about 4 months because I got really hungry. I didn't know what to eat, and neither did anybody around me. So ultimately, because I discovered yoga at 17 and moved to London, where there were a lot more vegetarians at that time than there were in Kansas City, my hometown, that got me vegetarian. And I hadn't even heard of vegans. But back in the States, and we're talking the very early 1970s, I somehow discovered the American Vegan Society. And Jay Dinshaw, the founder, and his wonderful wife, Freya — Jay is no longer with us, Freya very much is — they really took me under their wing. And I had a hard time going vegan. I was philosophically convinced, but the combination of how difficult it was at that time to eat, or wear makeup or wear shoes or anything, it was quite a struggle to be vegan at that time. In addition, I had a binge eating disorder. And finally, after all through my 20s, which was the 1970s, I'd be vegan for weeks or months. And when it was months, I'd think, I'm vegan. I finally made it. And I was working in the movement and I was writing articles. And then I would fall off the wagon. But finally, after the birth of my daughter in 1983, I just knew that I needed to raise her vegan. So I got very serious about the Overeaters Anonymous program, took care of my own eating disorder, and at the same time was finally able to be vegan and have never looked back.
Wow. And so how many years has that been now?
43.
Oh my goodness. I knew it was over 40 and I didn't realize that. I mean, to me, that's so inspiring and amazing because all those years ago, I hadn't even had it as a thought in my head as a possibility. So much admiration for that. And I do want to mention we have some people who have joined us live, and I want to share Mariquita, our dear colleague and friend who also attended Main Street Vegan Academy, mentions that she appreciates our diligence in making the world a more peaceful place. Thank you, Mariquita.
And hers too. Mariquita is doing a lot.
Yeah, she is. She's helping create peace through the work that she does. And anybody else who is watching us live, do feel free to share in the chat, where you're joining from. And if you end up having questions or comments as we're talking, we welcome that. So, one thing I've been struck by on my own vegan path, as well as the people I interviewed for my book and the people I met at Main Street Vegan Academy, is how for many of us, when we go vegan, it really is so compelling to us that it becomes part of our purpose. It becomes something that we want to share with the world or with others in our life or in some way, whether it's the person who became plant-based for health and healed from a disease that they were told by their doctor wasn't possible to heal, or whether it's more like me, where I had this awakening about animal agriculture and I realized the cruelty and harm to workers who are doing work that I would never want to do, as well as then I gradually realized about the animals, well, fairly quickly. It didn't, once I made the leap about understanding what it was like for many of the workers, it didn't take me long to think about the animals and just realize that I was investing in cruelty that I didn't want to be part of anymore. And once I realized that connection, it just became part of my purpose to want to share it, and realizing that not only is it a kinder lifestyle for sentient beings, it also would make such a positive difference for the planet and for human health, and I think our emotional well-being, because we wouldn't be disconnected from our true values. So I'm curious what your experience is like in your life. How has veganism played into your purpose? I mean, I can certainly see that it has, but how is it? You've always been a purpose-guided person. How has this played into it becoming vegan?
Well, I think it's all of the above, as you mentioned, the many things that people find when they get here. For me, it was the animals, but it was also very spiritual. When I did find those 3 yoga books in the Kansas City, Missouri Public Library, and they all said, if you're going to be serious about a spiritual path, you really need to stop putting harm into the world. And a very simple way to do that is to stop eating death, which made perfect sense and still does. But I also was having health problems, even though I was only 20, but I was substantially overweight and I was pre-diabetic, and all of that just disappeared when I made it to vegan. And I think also, even though we weren't really talking about the planet then, I don't know that lay people had even heard of climate change, but we did know that people were starving around the world, and they still are. It's very strange to me that world hunger comes in and out of the discourse. And when it's out of the discourse, I think we all just assume, well, that's taken care of. It's not taken care of. It's just so awful that we don't want to hear about it. And so for a couple of years or a couple of decades, it recedes until there's some awful famine somewhere. But the connection was very clear of what our food choices can do to impact world hunger. So all that was going on for me. And it seemed, why would anybody want to do anything else? And I realized that one of the gifts that was given me, because I did find it so young, is that I could have gone one of 2 ways. by the time I discovered veganism, I had already been working as a writer. These were the days of magazines. I was writing for teen magazines starting when I was 14 years old. So I went to my first Beatles press conference at 14. When I was 17, Paul McCartney bought me a drink. It
Wow.
was very exciting. And so I knew I was going to write and speak because all I can do is write and speak. I don't have any other gifts. But that could have gone in that other direction of maybe fashion. I did go to fashion school in London when I was 18. Some of these ways that were more self-serving or more serving aspects of life that aren't evil, but that aren't purpose-driven, as you said. And what the veganism did for me, and I think combined with the spiritual input that I had gotten from Dee Dee, this woman who largely raised me, was everything that I enjoyed that wasn't specifically vegan, wasn't specifically purpose-driven, got put in that lane as well. So for many years, I wrote the beauty column for Vegetarian Times magazine and for an animal rights magazine called The Animal's Agenda. And I was writing for the North American Vegetarian Society, the American Vegan Society, and all these other groups about the things that I found fun and interesting, but that had a very definite vegan component. And it's interesting to me now that things are so much easier, cruelty-free cosmetics and things of that nature. But I just saw a post from PETA yesterday about how many companies are still doing animal testing in China. So even to this day, we have to be vigilant. And some people could say, oh gosh, life is hard enough already. But what happens, what I find with the kind of vigilance required by me to be a vegan, and certainly none of us is perfect. I mean, we ingest things or we purchase things that we're unaware wouldn't be super duper vegan. But, we're doing the best we can. And that kind of vigilance just gives me more of a purpose, more of a reason for knowing that when I make a purchase, when I make a choice within the vegan framework, it's not just self-serving, it's serving of the whole. And that is a great stress reliever and a great help in life.
Yeah. It sort of gives you an orientation that kind of guides you and it helps to make choices. I think that really fits with this whole idea that when we know our values and we live by them, it gives us a decision-making framework that can help simplify life in some ways, even though it can be complicated because we live in a world that doesn't make that always easy.
Well, if I can, Angela, I would love to share a conversation that I had at Fest this July with JP, John Pierre, wonderful guy. I have actually known JP since he was 18 years old. He had just graduated high school and my daughter was a toddler, and we met at a vegan potluck in Chicago where we were both living. And JP is an exceedingly ethical person. I think of him as St. Francis. But we were just having this conversation and he said, I just always do the right thing. I mean, if somebody said to me, you can have $1 million, but you have to step on this ant, I would say, keep your money.
Wow.
Now, talk about stress relief, because I have to admit to you, Angela, if somebody offered me $1 million to step on an ant, I would consider it.
Yeah.
Like, what you could do with $1 million, how many animals you could save, all this cerebration. But in his mind, it's so clear. Ahimsa, reverence for life. We do not know what life is. We do not take life for any reason. And then there's no arguing back and forth, and there's no, should I do this? Should I do that? What's the right thing? Let me call Angela. There's just no. This is how I live my life. It's clear, it's simple, it's beautiful. And one thing I can say after all these years vegan and all these years in yoga and whatnot, I'm still learning. And I learned that from him less than a month ago.
Yeah. Wow. That is really inspiring. And, I guess I'm struck by both what you're sharing and what I found through my interviews for the book, The Vegan Transformation, was there's many ways we serve our purpose through veganism. One is just that daily lifestyle choice that you're describing, where like you try to make the choices that are kindest and cause the least harm. And that itself is serving a purpose that you're realizing, well, there's a lot of things in the world I can't control, but those of us that live with enough privilege can make the choice about what we eat and what we purchase and do the research. And again, as you said, not be perfect, but do the best we can, you know. And then I think for some of us, it goes even beyond that daily choice piece to it becomes part of our calling, that we realize it could make such a difference for our own health, human health, the crisis of all the medical lifestyle related issues in this country and beyond. And then for, of course, animals and the well-being of our nature and the planet and the environment. And so we want to share it, and we try to find ways to bring our gifts to share it. And so definitely Main Street Vegan Academy, which you brought to life back in 2012, played a big role in, I think, helping me find my voice in this space and make connections that supported me. So it was not only what I learned when I attended, but it was also the people that I met, including you, of course, and other alumni and other instructors, and those ongoing connections that helped me kind of stay the path and keep discovering my unique way of sharing this, because I think we're all so different. We're not going to share it in the same way or have the same focus. So I'm curious to have you share, I know a little of this story, but how Main Street Vegan came to be, because I think that fits in well with the spirituality and your purpose. How did it come about? And then tell us more about Main Street Vegan Academy.
It came about because I had the idea to write the book Main Street Vegan in 2011. I'd gone to a PETA event and they showed videos. I'd been seeing videos like that for almost 30 years by then. It wasn't anything new, but my heart was extra open. And the idea just really formulated itself in me that I needed to write a book with 40 little chapters and gear it to the young woman that I had been when I finally made the conversion from vegetarian to vegan. And it needed to be called Main Street Vegan, because I think one of the problems that we've run into in our movement from its very beginning is that we seem to be a bit set apart. And whether people think, oh, well, you guys are just a lot of leftover hippies or leftover punk rockers, or you're elite people with private chefs, because we read about the celebrity vegans. But to just really say, no, this is Main Street. This is for everybody. And so when I went to sell the book, we did get a wonderful publisher, Harper. I'm sorry, I had a lot of books with Harper. No, Random House, Penguin Random House. And the editor said, so happy to have you, but we hate Main Street. And I had a vegan miracle, and I really believe that they're becoming more prevalent. I think this is the time when the animals are really needing to come to the forefront, and sometimes we get a little bit of help from the universe. So walking up Broadway, I ran into Michael Moore, the filmmaker, who liked one of my previous books. I said hello. We started talking. Long story short, I ended up telling him my book dilemma. He said, let me talk to them. So in a three-way call with an Academy Award winner, my editor, and myself, I got that title, Main Street Vegan. And as soon as I knew that was mine, all these other things started to pop. There needs to be a Main Street Vegan podcast. There needs to be a Main Street Vegan production company for film. And there needs to be a Main Street Vegan Academy to train and certify vegan lifestyle coaches and educators. So all of that happened in 2012. That's when we had the very first Academy course. We used to be in person here in New York City. The pandemic and some subsequent things kind of shut that down. But now we're on Zoom, so we can reach people around the world. And it's thrilling to see what happens, because very often people have ideas kind of on the back burner, or could I maybe do this or maybe that? And there's something about the process of Main Street Vegan Academy, whether it's what they're learning from our superb faculty or whether it's being in a group of other very focused vegans who not only want to do this for themselves, but they really do want to change the world, make the world kinder, saner, healthier. Things happen and people get brilliant ideas, which frankly has been one of the greatest joys in my life. I do not, and I think will never have grandchildren, but I have graduates. And even if they're on my age or almost my age, they are my grandchildren, and I go to the ends of the earth for them.
Oh, that is incredibly true. Those of us that are blessed to get to know you through this journey of Main Street Vegan Academy, you are a support and an advocate and an encourager on our journeys of discovering how we're meant to serve and share this message or help others. So I've certainly experienced that and am really grateful. Marakita shared what I really liked about Main Street Vegan Academy is it's so well-rounded. It touches on all aspects of veganism. I can honestly say, I think there is no program that can match it. I have to say,
thank you, Marakita.
That's true.
And that's one of the things that I've always believed in, and it never would have occurred to me. And certainly other people can do other things that are more in keeping with their best skills and knowledge and emphasis. But for me, it's this umbrella of veganism, which covers so many aspects of life. And when we're out there in the world hoping to interest other people, sometimes it's some aspect of veganism that might not be the most important part for us, but it is for them. And so what I have been attempting to do, and I think successfully for these past 14 years at Main Street Vegan Academy, is train people as experts on the vegan lifestyle. They know enough that they can coach, counsel, speak, write, teach, interview, and do all of these things that can help raise awareness and take us closer to a vegan world.
Awesome. Yeah, roar into life shares. It's always inspiring to hear Victoria. And it's wonderful to see you, Angela, after meeting you recently and learning about your mission, book, and heart. So thank you. And Julie Tuesday put some hearts up. So definitely thank you, everybody. What are some of the different things that you've seen, like your graduates and other vegans do as a way of serving their gifts? Like, what are some of the diverse ways that you've seen people bring their gifts forward?
Well, it's so fascinating to me that I'm feeling that right now in the current climate where, there was a time, 2019 or so, you'd say vegan and that'd be a good thing. People would say things like, well, I'm not quite there yet, but I know you're doing the right thing. And now it's almost the opposite. So I think our strategy, at least in this country, I don't think it's that way around the world from what I hear from people in other places, but certainly in the US and North America, perhaps there's a lot of backlash against the way we eat and live right now. So we need to do things that are different. And some of the things that people are doing is this very incidental kind of activism. I had Glenn Merzer on my podcast, just interviewed him. So I think he's going to be coming up really soon. And he's made a feature film that isn't at all about veganism, but one of the main characters happens to be vegan and gets a line in here and there. And I think that's one of the ways we do it, kind of incidentally. Now, my Main Street Vegan Academy graduates, of course, like to do something a little bit more focused and a little bit more active. So we have had people start all kinds of businesses, and some of them have been very successful and are going to this day. Others kind of had their time in the sun and then didn't make it further, because what we see is that we're living in such a different time. I mean, even my industry that took care of me from the time I was 14 years old, of publishing and writing, that's completely different now than it used to be. So every writer that I know is doing other things as well. But we have had from Main Street Vegan Academy food trucks, cafes, catering businesses, and all sorts of stuff in the food world, then we've had people with yogurt companies, ice cream company, vegan cowboy boots. And then other people have gotten jobs either with animal rights organizations, some of the big ones, at plant-based companies. And the vegan lifestyle coach and educator credential is known and respected in the plant-based and vegan world. So it does seem to help people have a leg up and be selected for some of these kinds of things rather than someone else who might otherwise be equally qualified. And then, of course, we have people doing just what the certification says, and that is coach and educate. So sometimes people do want one-on-one help. We find most of our coaches are doing more group coaching. It's more affordable. It's more realistic for most people, especially now when things are so expensive. And one of the things we do, we have a core curriculum that anyone who's an expert on veganism would need to know. And we have that tiered as vegan principles, communication principles, and business principles. But we also change with the world as it's changing now, because we have to keep up. If we were giving the same training that we gave in 2012, it would lose a great deal of its value. So now we teach about AI and using social media and all of these other ways to get the word out and to stay relevant for the animals, for the plant-based movement, because there's suffering out there, animals, people, a planet. And so we need to be at the top of our game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it sort of brings in these basic fundamentals and then kind of evolves to meet the current times, definitely. Yeah, and it just, I think part of what you're naming too is this importance as people on the vegan path or who have become vegan of needing a support system, of others on that path. Because the research shows one of the biggest reasons people get derailed on the vegan path is lack of social support from others who can understand what you're going through and support and encourage you. And so being part of a community like this also gives that added support because you have ongoing alumni group meetings where those of us who have been graduates of Main Street Vegan Academy can meet and share our challenges and our successes and support one another. If you want to say anything about that.
Oh, well, that was one of the most important things because people were very clear from the beginning that staying connected would be important. So we started a Facebook group. I know not everybody's on Facebook these days, but to date, it's the best thing we've got. We have an alumni directory for people to contact each other when they travel or if they need some kind of particular service. And every other year we do meet in New York City. We're going to be doing that in August, and that's open to graduates and also anyone who's enrolled for the upcoming program, which will start in October. So if you enroll in the Zoom program, but you also feel like coming to New York City the weekend of August 7 through 9 for lots of fun and food and training, that's just another perk we offer. Sometimes at an event like Vegan Summerfest or one of the AR conferences, we'll gather, we'll have a dinner together, we'll have a Main Street Vegan Academy table, just so that people can meet people from other cohorts and really have a support network, because you never have to feel alone again. I knew we'd have a community, but what we've really gotten is a family, but a family without drama.
Yes, very true. Yeah. Yeah, the live gathering is so wonderful because I had taken Main Street Vegan before the pandemic, so I attended when it was live. I have also attended sessions now that it's on Zoom and also presented occasionally. And it is still incredibly engaging on Zoom, but there is something about visiting New York City that is very special. And so that's a great opportunity for people.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the Big Apple. I mean,
yeah,
city's
yeah,
a vegan nickname.
definitely. That's so true. Yeah, well, and also I do know there is a special offer that I can put in the description about Main Street Vegan, right? There's a discount code,
Yeah,
perhaps.
the
Yeah.
discount code for this year, it's $250 off tuition. You just put in Veg Coach 250, no capitals. And even using that discount, you can also take advantage of the pay over time with no interest program. And if you really want to come, and even that's just going to be tough for you, just write to me, Victoria at mainstreetvegan.com. We have some scholarship money. If you want to be here, we'll figure out a way for that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it can be life-changing no matter what you want to do. It's just gives that support and that connection and that guidance. So
And
definitely.
I don't think we've given the website, which is just mainstreetvegan.com. There's a lot about the program on the homepage, and there's even more on a page called The Program. So I suggest that you take a look. It talks about our faculty and our graduates. And you'll find in the faculty a lot of people you've heard of, because we do try to get the best and the brightest in the vegan and plant-based worlds. And I'm just very proud of it. It's something that has a lot of quality. And I think these days, especially, we're just hungry for quality. I find that whether it has to do with grammar or politeness or all these things that used to be just so accepted and almost required, we've kind of let go of them. And Main Street Vegan Academy holds a pretty high standard, although I do want to say it is adult education. To a lot of people say, oh, I'm afraid, I don't want to take tests and things. There aren't any.
Yeah.
You do have to read some books, listen to some podcasts, watch some movies, and you get to pick the movies. So nobody's forced to watch anything that's unpleasant about animals. But we do want you to have a really broad overview of these principles so that you can get out there and make a difference. Even more a difference than you're already making. And I'm sure anybody listening to this presentation is doing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's something you just said really hit home for me. We're in a time where we're inundated with information. We can attend a lot of different online programs and get all kinds of information on all different things. But this is different in that it's connection. And through the connection, like live interaction, connection, meaningful conversations, that's where the inner kind of transformation can happen of just not learning about something, but being engaged in it and with others on the journey. So that live and interactive piece of it is so important.
And I think something else that Main Street Vegan Academy does that has surprised me. A lot of things about Main Street Vegan Academy have surprised me. I thought I'm just going to start this little program and send these coaches out there, but so much more has happened than that. And it seems to elevate people. And you can tell me if you have found this in your experience, Angela, but it seems to lift people up very quickly. Like you could take 5 years doing your work, writing your posts, doing whatever you do, or you can do that and come to Main Street Vegan Academy and save the 5 years. I think because of the connections, the contacts, and just being able to say that you're a Main Street Vegan Academy graduate, it seems to shorten that curve for getting elevated and out there in a more meaningful way.
I would guess that is true. There's something about it that accelerates things. And I came only 6 months into having committed to being vegan after being vegetarian for several years. So I guess it's true for me. Within a couple of years, a year and a half of attending Main Street Vegan, I was working on the research for my book. And, I can't imagine that would have happened as quickly if I hadn't had that connection and that foundation. So
I'm so proud of you, Angela. And so many of my graduates, we were at Vegan Summerfest. You were a speaker. One of our graduates, Nancy Posnack, was a speaker. Graduate Chrissy Benson spoke last year. And people are podcasting and influencing and getting books published by real publishers. It's just so cool.
It is really cool. So When we last spoke, I just want to briefly bring up your most recent book. We last spoke, and that was just about to come out. That was about 1.5 years ago, and now it's been out for a while. Do you want to say anything about Age Like a Yogi or any?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
This is one of the things we were talking about earlier about sometimes we can get the vegan word out through things that don't say vegan. So in Age Like a Yogi, I'm talking about what I've learned in 55 years of yoga. And actually, when I started, they didn't have yoga teacher certifications. Your teacher would tell you you were ready to teach at a certain level and you would go from there. But during the pandemic, I actually did get certified and registered as a yoga teacher and a Raja yoga instructor, better late than never. And so Age Like a Yogi is this wonderful way to take these principles and apply them in midlife and later life. And in addition to yoga, which is mostly yoga philosophy in my book, we talk about Ayurveda, which is this wonderful Indian healthcare and self-care system. Now, a lot of vegans shy away from Ayurveda because, as is true to much Indian culture, there's a lot of respect for dairy. There's a lot of use of ghee, but take what you like and leave the rest. I mean, Ayurveda has done so much for my health. I'm so grateful for it. I don't use ghee, which is clarified butter, if that's an unfamiliar term to anybody. So we talk a lot about Ayurveda, which has this wonderful secret about aging well. There are 3 energies of life in Ayurveda, and we're all a little bit more one than the others. And yet everybody in their later life become more of this energy called Vata. And that causes certain things that we think of as aging. So it causes loss of collagen in the skin, creakiness in the joints, difficult digestion, a little more anxiety. And if you can balance that energy through keeping warm, eating wonderful, satisfying kind of vegan comfort foods. You can certainly do this whole food plant-based, but Vata likes hot soup and oatmeal and a warm almond milk with spices in the evening, that kind of thing. It really slows down what I think is nature's rapid rush to get us out of here. If you look at it in a strictly biological sense, once we can't reproduce anymore, nature is like, okay, I've got other people over here to take care of, but we still got stuff to do. And so to be able to just make this later time of life one that's more joyful and healthier and less fearful, it's so important. And Age Like a Yogi is about all of that.
Oh, awesome.
And there's an audiobook too, if any.
Yes, which you narrated, right? Which you narrated.
Yes, it was some of the most fun I ever had. We have these dreams, and one of my dreams was to move to New York, which I did at 50. And to record that audiobook, I got to go down to the theater district and record in a studio in the same building as the Capezio store. So, of course, as a little girl, I just wanted to be like the ballet girls. I was never very good at it. But there I am in this iconic building reading this book, and it just felt like, sometimes life gives you dessert.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it is a book with a lot of great ideas and tips for how we can live, better and more aligned with our body type and more healthfully and joyfully. So definitely worth reading, everybody. So we're nearing the end of our time. I guess the last question I want to ask you is just how you do stay hopeful and positive in the challenging times. I had been vegetarian since early 2007 and then became vegan in 2019, which was called the Year of the Vegan because there was this heightened interest and excitement. And so, I guess I'm wondering, now that, as you mentioned, sometimes the messaging is so much more negative about veganism, how do you stay hopeful and positive on your journey, and any tips you have for other people that are either vegan or on the vegan path?
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not perfect at any of this, but my favorite word is irrepressible. And
Mhm.
that means you fall down and you get back up. You take these hits and then you get back up. And what I'm seeing from having lived for a long time and been paying attention is that there are more of those hits just in the outside world. There's more that goes on, I think, politically, even with the weather, that affects us as individuals, which didn't used to be. I mean, I used to grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, Tornado Alley. And there was a really bad tornado once. And then there were some that weren't so bad. And we're talking about in 20 years. And now those kinds of things are happening all the time. So I think we just need a little more grounding. And I also think we can't expect ourselves to just be this kind of temperament all the time. Maybe some people can do that, and God bless them. I'm going to go sit in their aura. But for me, it's like, oh gosh, that happened. Oh my God, did you see that? I mean, just I was telling you this morning, evidently there's some sort of outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in the hospital where my husband happens to be right now. And it's like, woo, wasn't expecting that. So you take the hit, you get a little bit off base, and then you come back. And you come back by having wonderful support people. And they don't have to be vegan, but they have to understand vegan. They have to respect that this is your path, even if they're not seeing it yet for themselves. And we also get it from going within and having real ways to manage stress. I think we get on the plant-based side so excited about the dietary changes, and they can do magnificent things. I mean, they can make such a change in people's lives. But if you look at the Dean Ornish program, which really started everything when he showed back in the late 1980s that heart disease could be not just prevented, but reversed, that his program was then and is to this day diet, exercise, and that is weight training 2 to 3 times a week and 180 minutes a week minimum of cardiovascular exercise. It's also support, group support, loving connection, and an hour a day of stress management. You know, a lot of people say, I'm so stressed, and yes, I meditate. I meditate for 10 minutes. Well, meditate for 10 minutes and then maybe do visualization later in the day for another 10 and hatha yoga for half an hour. Another thing I've discovered lately that's so helpful is yoga nidra. And I know yoga nidra at the end of a yoga class, you know, you lie down, you relax, but it's really been studied now by Western medicine. They call it NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. And it evidently does some very positive things for the brain that you don't get either in sleep or in meditation, even though those are both very important as well. So if you're interested in this nervous system reset, I listened to a woman on YouTube called Ali Boothroyd, and it's really a game changer on the stress management front. So we need to take care of ourselves because life has never been easy, and it might be just a little bit harder now than usual. So let's buckle up and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful advice and insight, because I found on this vegan path, this is true for anyone, but because of the added challenges we might face, nurturing our emotional well-being is so important, and doing it in a variety of ways, as you're mentioning. Yes, the whole plant foods that help boost our immune system and our, you know, neurological well-being and all of that. But then on top of that, just having other practices that nurture us. So thank you for naming that. I'm with you on that. We have someone here that we know, Nancy, saying, I'll attest that it's a wonderful book. Your book, Age Like a Yogi, doing yoga meditation for 50 years, a lifesaver for me. Thank you, Nancy, for being here and for sharing. So we're wrapping up our time. Do you want to just say again how people find you, both the Main Street Vegan and your website, your personal website?
Sure.
And it's okay that there's a dog. We love dogs.
Dog barks. That's James, a fairly new adoptee. He seems to really like to bark. Yes, so mainstreetvegan.com. That's for information about Main Street Vegan Academy. And also the podcast is Main Street Vegan. That's on all the podcast platforms and on my YouTube channel, Victoria Moran Official. And I'd be so grateful to have people follow me there because that's something I'm trying to build. And then my author website is victoriamoran.com, which is kind of fun. It's about all the books and some of the history of the writer's life. So if you're interested in books and writing, I think you might find that fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll add those to the description at the bottom. But I'm just so grateful to have you here, Victoria, and for this time. Just appreciate the positive energy you bring, even when life can bring challenges personally and beyond. So grateful. Do you have anything final you want to say before we wrapped up?
I probably would, except my dog is barking. I live in an apartment. So
okay. Well, we covered a lot. So appreciate you being here, Victoria. And just want to thank all of you that have joined us live or who watch the replay later on. Just appreciate all that you're doing on your journey, wherever you're at. And if this was helpful, I hope you'll subscribe and follow and catch other interviews like this one, as well as I do a monthly book club based on my book, The Vegan Transformation, and some educational videos from time to time about thriving on your vegan path. So hope you'll join me and certainly follow Victoria and the great work she's doing. And thank you so much, everybody. People are saying thank you to us in the chat, and we're so appreciative to you. So take care, and we'll see you again soon.